it is a staircase with many steps. It's good to have that vision of going to the top, and you can get there and you will get there. But if I had known all the work that it was going to take, all the money it would take, it may have been enough to get me a little scared. And the point is, you don't have to know, because as long as you continue to drive yourself forward and learn the lessons as they come, you will just knock them out one by one.
You're listening to the Almost 30 podcast, a lifestyle podcast hosted by Krista Williams and Lindsay Simsick.
Tune in for a new episode every Tuesday to hear our honest conversations about topics like wellness, entrepreneurship, spirituality, and self-development with guests who are really smart, really inspirational,
and really fucking funny. It's real, it's raw, and it's unfiltered.
Inspired by our transition from our 20s to our 30s, we realized it's so much more than that. Our mission is to provide you with the tools, guidance, and motivation to help you navigate any transitions in your life and propel your personal growth.
Thanks so much for tuning into the Almost 30 podcast.
Here we go. Hello. Oh, we were just talking about we take a little, Silver Fern.
Yeah. Silver Fern brand, one of our sponsors.
Yeah. And I love their energy and endurance energy. I think it's called drink mix, and makes me poop. But also just gives me a really even energy. I don't get that it's just like, and then lasts.
And you don't get a crash. This isn't sponsored at all right now. I mean, they're a sponsor, but this talking about it is because I have a big belly right now from like poop. It's like a big poop. I don't know what's going on. I think because I can't get grounded. And Lindsay's like, oh, you should take some endurance energy from Silver Fern because it also helps you like work out.
Turn to Linz for a quick fix.
But poop, yeah. And I was like, oh, that's a great idea, but I don't want to be too hype right now.
Yeah.
But I do love, Silver Fern brand, code is almost 30 if you want it, 15% off. And the endurance energy is a pre-workout drink that me and Lindsay take a few times a week, just whenever.
Yeah.
Gives you a nice even energy and then helps you poop if you want.
They're not going to believe us that it wasn't sponsored.
Yeah, it wasn't. We were just talking about that. We thought we'd turn on the mic.
Hey, y'all. Welcome to the Almost 30 podcast.
Another good intro.
It's Linz and Krista, and we're so happy you're here. As always, we have been just feeling the love from Almost 30 Nation, and we have some really exciting news coming up for you guys in the next month or so. And it involves you.
Yep.
So stay tuned for that. We can't really say anything else, which is annoying.
You guys all raises.
Yeah, we're going to give you guys raises.
We've been calling your bosses, and we want you to get raises. Also, big news: we are number 47 on the overall chart as of right now.
Come on,
sitting right above a few other podcasts. I was going to say names.
I was like, she's going to go there.
I didn't even mean to do that. Because they're really big. Little old Almost 30 coming in hot.
Coming in.
All hustle and no luck.
All hustle, no luck, baby.
All hustle.
So this week, we really love to dig into the brands that we love, and we love to learn about their founders and their stories because, we feel like their energy and their spirit to create a brand like they do must be one that we should elevate and bring to you guys. So we reached out to Health-Ade, which is our go-to kombucha brand. Daina Trout, the founder, is just like the coolest mama in the land.
Yeah. So fashionable, so stylish.
But like so real
cool.
too.
She's
like
so
literally.
real.
She's just so cool. I know we say that, but we really mean it. And we got to do a video call with her. She's down in the OC. So we got to see her face to face, which we love if they're not in person. So we just talked to her. It's a crazy founder story. I mean, really grassroots. Like she was making shit in her kitchen. Okay.
I didn't even,
I didn't
even know that. I was like, oh, you're making in your kitchen, selling it at farmers markets, and
couldn't make it fast enough.
Now you're $100 million plus company. Crazy. She's a fucking woman, dude. And she did it with her husband. She did it with her best friend. She was so raw and honest, and she talks about the challenges. She talks about the struggles. So for all you female entrepreneurs, this is such a great, inspiring story.
Yes.
And we also talked about the kombucha scandal thing. So
she says kombucha. I say kombucha. We still don't know what it is.
I know. What did Daina say?
I actually don't know.
Kombucha.
I think it's kombucha, but like I like
kombucha.
The cam that I like what you say.
Do I say kombucha?
Yeah, but I like
kombucha.
Artisanal kombucha.
Kombucha. I'm gonna have my own language. I want my own emoji keyboard.
Oh my God, yeah.
I should, and it should be like kombucha ashkawanda.
Little mushroom
emoji. What else do I say? I don't know.
So yeah, I mean, she also has a family, and you know, it's hard to like take that jump when you have like, I think she had her son after, but when you have responsibility and when you have a partner and you know, you're looking to the future, do you take that risk? So if you guys are standing kind of on the precipice of taking that jump, we hope this will inspire you to do so if you have kind of the right resources and the mindset that Daina has. So we were just really lucky to chat with her. So subscribe, rate, and review. Join the secret Facebook group, all the things so that we can connect with you more and more and more. We love you guys.
I love you. Enjoy.
This episode is brought to you by Your Super. We are so proud to have Your Super as a sponsor for the Almost 30 podcast. We are so inspired by their story and the intention and mission behind this brand. Michael and his wife, Christelle, started this brand after Michael was diagnosed with cancer at age 24. While he was recovering and trying to rebuild his immune system, he and Christelle learned how important it was to fuel our bodies with whole foods. So it's really important to them that their superfood powders and mixes are filled with natural whole ingredients. And the result, they felt energized, happier, increasingly more aware. Their immune system was kicked into high gear. So we are just so proud to have them as a sponsor. I am loving the Super Green Mix right now. You know, I do eat greens on the regular, but some days I just don't get them or get as much as I would like to. So this is an easy way for me to increase my intake of nutritious greens. It contains all essential vitamins and minerals, only 6 green superfood ingredients, nothing else. And 1 spoonful equals a handful of greens. I'm in, okay? I just adore this brand. It's delicious. It's pure. It's good. It's 100% natural. No additives, dairy-free, soy-free, vegan, gluten-free, non-GMO. Come on, people. We just love this brand, yoursuper.com. You can use our code ALMOST30, ALMOST30 for 30% off. I would run to this site. 30% off is a major deal. And, you know, we just love to give you options to kind of put into your rotation of things that really make you feel good, more like yourself, healthier, more energized, so that you can focus on what you really want to get done in this life. So we're just so excited to share this brand with you. Enjoy.
So nice to talk to you. It's so nice to get you on the line. I mean, you guys have been so great, you know, with supporting us and supporting so many other events and other, you know, gatherings, you know, women supporting women, those type of just functions and stuff. It is just great. And like, we can always count on you. We can always count on the team at Health-Ade to be amazing and sweet and present. And we just, you know, really are thankful and grateful for everything that you've done, just like standing in what you guys believe in. We appreciate it.
That's awesome. What a way to start a Monday.
Oh yeah, it's true. I mean, we can always, we're like, hey, we're doing this. And your team's always like, cool, we'll be there. You know, we'll support, like,
truly,
we'll do everything. So we love that about you guys.
Awesome. Well, we are big believers that it's the year of the queen. So we're going to support female, you know, female growth all over the place.
I love that so much.
I just went to Create and Cultivate this weekend. It was really special.
Wait, tell me more.
Yeah, tell us about it.
It was just really cool. Imagine like close to 1,000 women dressed in the coolest outfits you've ever seen.
I know. It's almost it's almost intimidating.
Oh my goodness. I was like, everything is like, where did you get that piece of art? You know, it's kind of like that. And then brands that you love set up in a really incredible, beautiful, loungy type spaces, very kind of open, airy feel. And then there were 2 stages, so you could go and see speakers on either stage, and it really, really awesome speakers. relevant to different types of business, not all one type of business. Sometimes you go to these things and it's either all social. I don't know. This was just a really good mix. Like there were manufacturing people, there were marketing people, there were founders, there were C-suites, it was just as inspiring for me to be there as a speaker to meet some of these other women that have done really cool stuff, of products that I buy and services that I use or brands that I respect, as it was to, of course, be able to share whatever wisdom I've garnered over the years with these women that were so excited to hear what we had to say. So it was just awesome. And like the food was awesome. Everything looked so cool. There were all these backdrops for like the coolest photographs you've ever taken. It was just really great.
Yeah, they're so smart. Like
Instagrammable everywhere.
Yeah, every detail is like thought of. Oh, I love that so much. What was your session?
So funny enough, I was brought in to do a panel called DTF, Down to Finance. It was to, help inspiring entrepreneurs understand how to raise capital, how to look at finances. I mean, I think the moderator, her name is Eva Pauling. She's the founder of Richer Poorer. And
I love her so much.
Yeah, she's awesome.
Love her.
And you'd love her even more because she was 9 months pregnant moderating the panel. So
Wait, she's pregnant right now?
She's 9 months pregnant. I mean, she's like, she was starting to have contractions.
Oh my God. She was a writer of mine down in Newport. And I used to work freelance for Richer Poorer, and they're just the raddest. That is so cool.
I love
that. So she was just saying that women especially are so uncomfortable talking about money. And that is like such an important thing to get over if we're going to be business owners. And so it was a really cool panel. And at first I kind of thought, oh man, how boring, like finances, but it was definitely the best panel I've ever been a part of. Eva did phenomenally well as a moderator, and the place was packed with people taking notes. It was just a really awesome panel. And it was a group of women, only 2 founders. So it wasn't all about raising capital. There were also some private equity group, female executives there. So we got their perspective as well. And then somebody who had like worked in investment banking and then quit that to start something completely new. So there's like all kinds of different people. It was really awesome.
That is so cool.
Can you talk to us about your story? I know a little bit about it, but I think a lot of our listeners can relate to starting with almost nothing and wanting to having this vision of creating something quite big and quite profound and something that could make a difference, in the health of, a massive amount of people. So can you talk to us about that?
Sure. So obviously there's so much that goes into anyone's story, right? I could spend hours talking about each little phase of the business. But yes, I think what you're speaking to is certainly something that's familiar to me. You only have a little bit of money, but you have this dream of making a really big mark. That was exactly why I started. I had this feeling that was like, I knew I could do something that would change the game. I knew that there was something I had to leave on this world, like a mark. And I just felt it grow. It was like a voice that just got louder and louder, but I didn't have all the resources. I certainly didn't have the experience. And my 2 co-founders that we started this with, my best friend, Vanessa, and my husband, Justin, also didn't have the experience. My husband was a musician, and Vanessa and I both worked together at a job in pharmaceuticals. So we kind of came at it with about $600 and a whole lot of heart. Now, fast forward to today. Now I feel like we're really exemplifying that image I had put on a vision board 6 years ago. We've got over 100 employees now, or nationwide, 12,000 accounts. We're fastest growing brand in the category. There's so many exciting things, right? Like we're selling in Costco next week. That totally blows my mind.
What?
Yeah.
Wow. Congratulations.
I got a Costco membership just to go buy it all.
That's amazing.
Oh my God, that's amazing.
You're gonna be like, I also found this 5-tub tub of pretzels.
Yeah, that's right. That sounds about right. The one thing, if I could look back to that girl in the beginning, it's really important that that person understands it is a staircase with many steps. And it's good to have that vision of going to the top, and you can get there and you will get there. But I think that if I had known all the work that it was going to take, all the money it would take to raise, like, in other words, if I were to come into where the brewery is today, which is like really awesome, right? I mean, it's nothing like what it was in our closet. It may have been enough to get me a little scared, a little bit, to say, oh, I don't know how I would even raise $25 million. Like, I don't even know how I would do that. And the point is, you don't have to know. Because as long as you continue to drive yourself forward and learn the lessons as they come, you will just knock them out one by one. And as long as you're continuously, it's just like in soul cycle classes, right? Or any other kind of fitness routine. If you're constantly pushing yourself to get better and learn and do better and evolve, you will get to the point. I mean, there is no ending. And I think even today, I bet you 10 years from now, I'll look back at where we are today and say, I'm so happy that I didn't like get scared off by that big dream or the even bigger dream, because the dream just does get bigger. So I guess, I don't know if that answered your question, but I think what I was trying to relay is just, it's good to have that dream. It's good to have that vision, keep that alive, but remember that you get there by taking one step forward at a time. And that's really all you have to focus on, is what is the next best thing to do.
And why kombucha? Like, what was the inspiration for that?
It's a bit of
like, did you know in your heart, you were like, there's a hole in my heart and it's kombucha?
No, not at all. No, really. I mean, and I don't know if this is what everyone wants to hear, but really the reason we started Health-Ade is because the three of us each had a burning desire to start something of our own creation. The passion was more entrepreneurship than it was kombucha. Now, I drank kombucha like for 20 years before we started Health-Ade. When I was in graduate school, I went to graduate school for nutrition, and I was fascinated with how food could heal. And I didn't take the traditional philosophy in nutrition. So for me, it wasn't about the science and the numbers. It was actually more about how food made you feel. So it was there that I got into that whole philosophy of whole foods and holistic foods and healing with food. So I was kind of more on the hippy dippy track. And I learned how to ferment food. I loved it. I was the person, you'd come over to my house and I'd have things like sprouting on the counter, and I made kombucha and sauerkraut and yogurt and coconut yogurt and all that stuff. But I had no idea that it was going to be my business in the future. It wasn't like particularly kombucha over any other probiotics that I was like into. Just, I knew how to make it. So 10 years later in LA, where I was feeling that like unfulfillment, the story is my husband came home from a hairdresser, and the hairdresser told him he was losing his hair. And it was
respect to that hairdresser. Just shooting it straight.
He was like, it's your last hurrah. And my husband was like, no, I'm like 28 years old. We got to figure this out. So Vanessa and I are like, okay, great. So let's start researching what will regrow hair. And of course, because I'm, passionate about like real foods, I start looking at natural ways to regrow hair. And we were just sort of researching what maybe this next big idea could be for a business. And we keep coming across in the literature that there are parts of the world like Tibet, they use the culture, the SCOBY, as a mask on the head. And that if you put this mask on your head, it will actually like increase the integrity of the cells and somehow regrow hair. Not sure. But what I did know is I knew how to make kombucha SCOBYs, right? So I'm like, I know how to make SCOBYs. Let's do this. I'll make the SCOBYs, Justin, you'll be the guinea pig. So we start making a ton of kombucha in order to cultivate these cultures. We didn't care as much about the liquid actually at the time. We were just interested in the culture. So I'm like a mad scientist, like gathering these cultures, jar by jar. Meanwhile, I have so much kombucha, we don't know what to do with it. So we start handing it out to friends, neighbors, anybody that would take a case of kombucha unlabeled, because we were interested in the SCOBYs, not the liquid. People were coming back to us being like, oh, this is like the best kombucha we've ever had. Like,
you're like, it was just on my husband's head for 3 hours.
Yeah, exactly. So we weren't getting indications early on that it was very good, but we weren't focused on it at all. It was focused on the cultures. And then somebody from the Brentwood Farmers Market gave us a call because it was a friend of Vanessa's and said, hey, we've got an opening this summer for a booth. Because a farmer is going to be dipping out for the summer months. And Brentwood Farmers Market and a lot of the farmers markets, by the way, have like a 3-year waiting list. So
wow,
they were like, all you need is $150 to start. The three of us were like, well, we got to sell something because this is our opportunity. And we don't have the hair stuff yet. But we did have
a hair scoby.
Yeah. We didn't have that figured out yet. So we had like 60 cases of kombucha. So we were like, let's just like sell this. So in a weekend, we put the labels on it. We put the name together. Anyway, it was really cool, but we did not think it was going to be the thing. And it was in that summer that it just became very clear to us that there was a need out there in the market for premium kombucha. There was a niche. We wanted to be the best tasting, the highest quality. That's what we felt we did best. I can't tell you the demand and the buzz that existed. It was an incredible amount of hard work because we all had jobs. So it was like nights, weekends, literally there was no sleep. And it was so like organic, like ground roots. You just show up on a Sunday at 6 a.m. and you sell your heart out of the product you like made with your own hands. By the end of the farmer's market, it was clear that we had something, and we never really went forward on the hair loss project. But we always call the story hair loss to Health-Ade. And by the way, Justin hasn't lost any more hair, so I don't know.
No way.
Oh, shoot.
Probably, dang, that's amazing.
Like, I actually want to know, like, how much of it he was concerned about and how much of it were you just more concerned about?
Yeah.
Like, oh shit, we got to fix this.
Yeah, we got to get that. I watched my boyfriend Justin's hairline like a hawk.
Yeah.
Every night I'm like, what's that hairline doing?
Yeah, I know. I know.
That's amazing.
I know. What the heck, right? I feel bad, but no, and who knows? Maybe it was just that you had to drink it. But yeah, so that's how it all started. And then one of the biggest moves we had to make was to quit our jobs. And I think it's one of the scariest things for people to do, especially women, for whatever reason. The security is like really important to us. I mean, as it should be, that's normal, right? But it was the most important, probably people always ask me like, what's like the milestone, like one of the major milestones? And still to this day, the most important thing we did was quit our job. Because, and by the way, we didn't have any money. So there was no payment. I mean, it was like ramen noodles 3 times a day. That's where we were at. But it was the most important thing because showing up I remember that Monday morning where none of us had a job nor an upcoming paycheck. It forced us to move so much faster. And plus we had all this time and energy now to devote to the business. So it's very simple with business. More work equals more growth, period. So, I mean, yes, you can get smarter at the work, and that's called fine tuning, and that's great. But work equals output. It just is that way. And that's why, like, in the beginning, it's a ton of work from you because you don't have any employees yet. And then as you get more employees, you start to see your company really take a huge jump forward because you have more people doing work. Now, of course, you've got to, set the strategy straight. You have to set the vision straight so that they're all doing work in the right direction. But assuming you've got all that under control, the reason that I can leave work at 5 o'clock and go on vacation now when I want is because I have a team of 107 people who are doing the work. And we had to get there step by step, right? But anyway, I'm digressing, but that's how it started. That's why kombucha.
Yeah.
So talk to us about that time when you had quit your jobs. What do you think were kind of like the most important moves, that forward movement that put you to where you are now? Like pivotal moments that really kind of increased your growth and really gave you confidence? Were they meetings with people? Were they just confirmations from the universe? Was it like a big partnership or something like that?
I wish I would have gotten more confirmations from the universe because the beginning was hard. And that's one of the reasons I try to talk as much as possible in whatever medium I can to women, especially that are starting out, because I found it to be the most lonely, the most difficult time. And maybe that's the price we have to pay. I don't know, but it was hard. So not a lot of confirmations from the universe, unfortunately. But I think that did make me tougher. So, okay, yeah, a lot of important things. I mean, we already talked about the work element, so let's just start there. The amount of work that Vanessa, Justin, and I were willing to put in was not normal. It was not like I had there were a lot of other businesses starting alongside of us. And if I were to tell you and I don't know much about their businesses, but I was able to watch them as people, a lot of them in the farmers market. The reason we succeeded was simply because we put in just more work. It was just always constantly pushing ourselves forward. Like I remember there was this one company next to us. They had a phenomenal product. They had 3 founders too, and the 3 of them would show up to every farmer's market. And Vanessa, Justin, and I, we did that for a few farmers markets, like 3 or 4. And then we were like, wait, why are all 3 of us showing up? That doesn't make any sense. Let's fucking divide and conquer. Let's go to 3 farmers markets. So we were always constantly pushing ourselves to grow. And it was always uncomfortable. And we never knew 100% if it was the right way to go. But, you know, we kind of just pushed ourselves always into that mode of growth. So we, instead of being in one farmer's market with 3 people, we were in 3 farmer's market with 1 people within our first month. And that second company stayed in that mode of 1 farmer's market for that whole summer. Well, at the end of the summer, we were in 13 farmer's markets. They were still in 1, and we had 20 times the sales they did, even though we started the same date. So, and yet we still had the same number of people.
How could you keep up with the demand?
Mm-hmm. In a way, that's kind of the easy part, because think about if you're a go-getter, like, and somebody asks you for something, you deliver. It's easy to deliver on that. The harder parts about business are, how do you now grow past to the next phase? Like forcing yourself to always evolve forward. That's more of the more difficult part. And it's the unknown. But if you're a kind of a badass already, chances are you're going to be a badass in business. And if somebody's already putting an order in, you're going to figure out how to get that order made. Like, it's not that, you might have to stay up all night, and I remember Christmas Eve, all 3 of us were working that year, and into Christmas. And it was so fun though. Like, I would have been pissed if I was working at my other job, but it was fun. We were all there. And that's one of the best photographs we have still to this day. But yeah, the work piece, I think, is a really important one, that you're willing to just put it out there. And if you yourself can't put in that time, because let's say, at the time I didn't have a kid, totally understand if you've got a kid, like that does complicate things. You need somebody to put in that time. So there is an element of just work that needs to happen. And the more you do in the beginning, the better, the faster it will grow. And then the other milestone in the beginning was when we hired our first employee. I was so resistant to do it because we didn't have the money, but we did. And it takes a very big step forward when you immediately add now an additional person, an additional 40 hours a week. So I'd say the work piece is a really big piece. And then the second piece is, and we were lucky to have a trio group that really helped each other out and loved each other a lot, but believing in yourself. I hate to be cliche, but it's just really hard. And you're constantly doubting yourself. You're always feeling like you're in a vulnerable state. You don't know if you're doing the right thing. This is all very normal. Understanding that it's normal is one of the best things you could do, because you don't let it get you down. You don't let it get the best of you. I'm not saying we did that swimmingly well, but we did have each other to kind of, lift the other one up. So I guess the advice I'm trying to get to others is just to try to believe in themselves as much as possible. That beginning stage of toughness is a very big part of it. And I haven't met one entrepreneur that's been successful that didn't have that real sort of almost religiously lonely phase of the beginning, which is just like, am I doing the right thing? I don't know. Yeah.
And how long was that period for you? And were there any times where you guys were like, I don't know if this is going to work? If you kind of just felt like you were at the bottom of it and you just didn't know if it was going to work?
Yeah. If I'm being entirely honest, I still sometimes think it's not going to work. Like,
LOL.
So, yeah, isn't that crazy? I still sometimes sit down. I'm like, I don't know if I'm the one. I don't know. Maybe
you're like 25 million may not be enough.
It's all gonna fall through my hands like sand. Like, I guess. Oh, wow. So yes. The answer is yes. Constantly felt like not sure. It did change a lot when I was able to get others that had success in the past to tell me that I was on the right track. And so some people are really good about getting mentors and hooking up with people that have done it before. I highly encourage that, because I didn't do that in the beginning. I only got that when we got our first investment, and it came with our investors, these people that had invested in big businesses before, had a lot of success, sold, 600 some companies, whatever. So when they would tell me we were doing a good job, or, that really helped me in the beginning. Then there was this whole other phase of life, like 2 years later, that I had to stop relying on them for their, their good job, Daina, and I had to find it within myself. But that's stage 2. At least stage 1, get it where you can get it. And I didn't, in the very beginning, I wasn't good about mentors. So I think that's something I would have tried to do better, is really found other people that were a few steps ahead, that could tell me, keep going, you're on the right track. I know you want to quit, don't quit. I have this one moment. Oh my God. It was like, yes, we were so we had no money. Our credit card had been shut down. I was living out of my car. We had been evicted out of our apartment because we were brewing out of there. It was just, I had no money, literally living on $7 a day. It was just but yet we were selling like crazy. It was just that all the money had to go into the growth. And our credit card was shut down because it was costing more. Our limit was $50,000 on the credit card. And we needed to spend more than $50,000 on ingredients, on bottles, caps, labels, sugar, tea, water, in order to get through the next sales week. Because we had taken on Erewhon and a couple other grocery stores. And their orders weren't like one case. They were like 60 cases, some of them 180 cases, So they don't pay you for like 45 days. That's just how it is in that world. So I basically had to pay for like 3 months in advance. It's just a whole new model. And anyway, we didn't have the money. And yeah, I remember being like, I think I failed. I think this is what they talk about. Okay, we're going to give up. But it was so depressing because we had given so much work and there was so much positivity around the product that didn't feel right. And so this is the one time the universe gave me confirmation. You talked about universe confirmation. So I'll just tell you, I was walking around the block. It was 4 a.m. I was ready to quit. It was like, that was it. And I was thinking, what am I going to tell my dad? Who he's going to be like, oh, you were right. I mean, I was right because he didn't really encourage this. And I'm walking around the block and I kind of, I'm pretty dramatic. So I collapsed and on the ground. It's over. And it was in Santa Monica. And I collapsed. And right where I collapsed on the sidewalk, spray painted on the ground, on the sidewalk, it said Daina.
What?
Now it wasn't spelt like me. It was spelt Dyna. And I later found out that was where they were going to be like installing plumbing lines or something. And the company was called like Daina or whatever. Anyway, didn't matter. I fell right there. It said Daina. And I was like, that's all I fucking need.
Damn.
I love that. Were you listening to music or anything? To really get you in the mood where you're just having a meltdown? Yeah, literally.
Girl, I've done it. I've literally done it. But it's such an interesting thing to think about, having your vision and you can taste it. You see it. You see the demand. You see the buzz.
Yeah.
You see that your product is more than just good. It's great. And transcending this stigma of not being financially stable. It's such a hard hump to get over at that point. But I do think you're right. It is a turning point because if you can push through that and just have your vision be so much stronger than the doubt that, just because you don't have money in the bank right now doesn't mean that defines you, I think is really powerful because a lot of people give up at that point. They really they're like, okay, on to the next thing because I need to pay my rent. I need to do this instead of having faith in all of the work that they've put in. And whoa, that takes a lot of fortitude.
Yeah, and it is scary. It's scary and you don't know. It's almost like you're going off of a totally different fuel. It's almost like, it's real intuition. It's real intuition that's just sort of trusting in yourself when everyone else is telling you you're crazy and all the other metrics that you've been looking at are crazy. Listen, not all businesses work, but I would venture to say, I bet a lot of them, I bet you half of them could have worked, I mean, I don't know if it's because, my product is really awesome and we make really great kombucha and I'm proud of it, but we weren't the first kombucha to the market. It's not like we innovated and created something that was going to really change the world. It's not, And that's not necessarily required. I think the real difference with us is we stayed committed to the product that we make and the high quality product we make. Yes. But like I said, again, just the complete commitment to constantly pushing it forward, even when you wanted to quit. And you're absolutely right. Like, it is scary at that moment to give up on that security. And maybe in a way it was easier for us because we didn't have a lot to start with. Like, sometimes I know people think of the lack of money as a prohibitive thing, but I wonder if that actually makes us even better off because there's not as much to lose. Like, you can always go back to that place.
Totally.
Whereas now it might be harder for me now. You know?
Yeah. Dude, makes so much sense.
We interrupt this episode to bring you a word from our sponsor, Simple Contacts.
A few months ago, I did a post on 100 blog with an amazing brand that I got introduced to called Simple Contacts. And I'm so excited that they are sponsoring the podcast because I just love the service. So this is where 2018 meets contacts, meets at home, do everything. And it is so easy to get your contacts delivered straight to your door. You don't need to go to the doctor. You don't need to leave your couch. You can take your eye test online with their app. So you take an eye test, a redness test, a brief health questionnaire, and then you can submit and get contacts delivered straight to your door.
Super easy, super convenient. And like, it's the one thing you don't really want to worry about. How many freaking times, I'm sorry, I'm so bad at it. I'll have one pair of contacts left. And I'm like, oh shit.
Yeah, I'm like, I guess I'm wearing my glasses from when I was 4.
So it just takes care of it for you. No more appointments, no more waiting rooms, no more overpaying. And if you have an unexpired prescription, you just upload a photo of it and your doctor's info and order your lenses in minutes for a great price. So they do all the hard work for you. So our listeners can save $30 off their first Simple Contacts order with promo code ALMOST30, ALMOST30. Or you can go to simplecontacts.com/almost30. So both will work. simplecontacts.com/almost30, or you can enter the code almost30 at checkout. Just one way to make your life a little bit easier.
What is it like working with, so is your husband and your best friend, right? The three of you. I think that's like such a, like, how lucky are you?
I know.
You know what I mean? Like, how beautiful. I know.
Yeah, what are the challenges?
So what is that? Because it seems like if one would be down, you don't have another person that's like, okay, yeah. It's almost like the third person I could imagine would like help to just like level out the situation, bring you guys up. So can you talk about working with your best friend and your husband? Like, what's that like?
Sure. So in the beginning, having 3 people fully committed to the business like we did, it was so critical and so awesome for those exact reasons. There was so much work to do and we would just split it up and divide and conquer. Nobody really had too much of an ego. So it was just like, go, we'd come back at the end of the day, have a beer, call it a day, come back 3 hours later when it was morning. That was a great period, and having 3 people was awesome in that regard. The fact that they were our friend, my best friend and my husband was just even more awesome because we just got so much closer. Where it started to become challenging is when the company really started to develop. So not so much the business. The business was there and it was starting to gain in revenues and there was a lot of work always to be done. But when we became a company with structure and people and layers, and I became official CEO, Vanessa became official CSO, and Justin became official COO. And by the way, we still all operate the business in these roles. That's where it started to become challenging because we weren't doing as much of the technical work anymore. We had employees now to do the work. We were setting the strategy, the vision, the next step, and then demanding our team to execute on them. Seems pretty simple, but in this stage, this is where, things can get pretty heated because we all have our opinions and they don't always align. And that's actually not a bad thing at work. So for example, my husband and I, we're really different people. Like, I'm more of a dreamer. I'm more of a builder. He's more of the like, let's plan for all the things that can go wrong. And so you can imagine in a stage where you're trying to set where you're going next, those two will collide. But you want that second force there to tell you, that you're too high off the ground. You need to stay grounded. So it's good that he's there, but a lot of conflict, I guess is what I'm trying to say. And that's not exactly the person you want conflict with, your husband. You want conflict between a CEO and a COO. It's good for them to be like this, but it's not the best when it's your husband, because then you go home and you're like, hey,
want to do it?
Yeah, you're like, you want to watch Stranger Things?
Want to do it. Exactly. No. Right. And it's actually not that bad if you can be really, really good about not talking about work at home. So if you're both really committed to like taking that hat off, and I know some married founders that actually have like a little bit of a ritual right before they walk into the door. Like they like actually go upstairs, they change their clothes into like normal clothes, and then they come down and they say like, hey, how was your day, honey? Like almost as if they didn't, as if that was cool. Like a role play all day. And that works for them.
Like this guy at work was a big asshole. I'll tell you about him.
Yeah. Super big dick. Anyway, yeah. So the best thing you can do is not talk about it. As soon as you start talking about it at home, that's where the problems arise. Because then the conflict, continues, and then you're just like, then you definitely don't want to do it, right? So we've been really good about that over the last 5 years, learning along the way, but it's definitely a challenge. It's really challenging. Now with the best friend part, actually hasn't been that difficult, because I think we do have that natural boundary of not taking it home. And then also Vanessa and I are we just communicate really well. I don't know. It's just like, it never was an issue. But you have to make sure you spend time as friends too. So like, you guys probably feel the same way. You have to go out and like, have a dinner date together and not talk about work. And
it's hard.
It's hard.
One dinner we sat down and didn't say anything to each other for the whole time.
I just want to be in your presence. Oh, I love that.
Yeah, we feel you on that.
We're together so much. It's like there's so much to talk
about. Like that. Yeah. We're like, oh,
that we always like go switch in and out.
Yeah.
Oh, that's nice.
But it's usually like right in the morning.
I think the fact that we're best friends and husband, and he's my husband, is a good thing. We have this incredible like emotional connection that I think it definitely adds to the business. It's more just drawing the line so that it doesn't overtake your life. That's all. And having a kid was actually a really big benefit there, because Hendrik, he's a reason not to talk about work. So when you come home and you have, your kid's there and he's freaking the cutest thing ever and he's 2 years old, you're just like, it doesn't matter what happened today. So in a weird way, the kid actually helped us really create that home boundary. So it wasn't just like whip up your computer in the middle of dinner because you got, a PO to deliver on. Yeah.
Love that.
Wow.
That is beautiful.
Did you guys, I don't know this part of your story. So did you pitch to like VCs and investors? Like, how was that process? What was that like? And how was it to have like a team, majority female, 2-1? But I mean, we've talked to other, female founders, and they've had, quite the time pitching to male, investors or, predominantly male VCs.
Yeah. Well, so the first part of your question is, did you have to pitch? Not really, luckily. Now, the reason we didn't have to is because in the farmer's market, so we got lucky. We had quite a bit of sales and buzz already around our product from the farmer's market. And it didn't cost us all that much money to do that, comparatively. We had already attracted quite a bit of attention in the farmer's market from investors and private equity groups. So it was sort of more, we got to pick the one that we wanted in the group. So that was a very lucky situation. And I often talk to women who are experiencing that problem of needing dollars and, needing to pitch. So, but it's not that I don't have experience pitching, because I did in the end have to pitch to the group that we wanted to select. And I remember showing up in the boardroom, and yes, it was 12 men in suits. And I had just come off of brewing kombucha for 17 hours, so I was like smelling like fucking vinegar and feet. And it was just super intimidating. And I remember creating a deck And I'm not a finance person, right? So I created a deck on PowerPoint and I thought it was so dope. It was on PowerPoint though. And typically finance is Excel, right? So I was like PowerPoint, like text box, color it in white, arrow. Wow. Totally like if a marketing person was creating And they were so kind to me, they let me go through the entire presentation and at the end.
And then they ripped you apart.
At the end I looked at them and I could tell they were like, yeah, honey, we're not investing in you because of your financial savviness, we're investing in you because you've obviously created a really awesome asset and you know how to sell it and build it. And we love the amount of work that you put into it. It's definitely, they're investing in you as a person. So the one thing I learned from and we've done 5 rounds of funding now with 2 private equity groups. So I have a lot of experience raising capital. A few things I'll tell everyone out there is 1, they are not investing in your business. They're investing in your product. And what I mean by that is they are going to help you run and build that business in a way that's going to make sense. So don't worry so much that you're not totally profitable yet. If you're not, don't worry that you don't have the financial skills to, beat them. Remember, they went to School of Wharton, master's degrees in financial forecasting. You're not going to beat them there. But what they don't have is your grit. They don't have your vision. They don't have your product. So selling them on that, because if I look back at that first presentation, it was 1 page about Health-Ade and 12 pages of my finances. When it really should have been 12 pages about Health-Ade and us and who we are and why we're awesome and why you cannot miss a beat or why you cannot miss this opportunity. And then maybe 1 page or 2 pages of financials and being very open about the fact that that's not the forte we have. I think that's a proper way to go. So many people's decks I see in the beginning are so financially focused and I know why they're doing that, but remember that they want to know why they should invest in you as people. So the more that you can sell yourself as just a one of a kind, once in a lifetime type of person with such a strong vision and commitment, that's what they want to buy. So that's the first. And then the second thing is, one thing I'm noticing is people are not as interested in investing in brands and services that don't have revenues yet or don't have substantial revenues yet. So the days of pre-product investment are starting to kind of dwindle. And I think what we have to say to ourselves is, okay, there's some expectation of sales and growth. So we got to get gritty and figure out how we do that, either online, direct to consumer, in farmers markets like we did. But you got to find some way to sell your products in a super gritty way so that they feel like they can, get a return on what they're investing in. I'm noticing a lot of investors turning down ideas that haven't yet come to fruition.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like in the past couple of years, there's been so much happening in that world. It's almost like there's time for a shift, in the investment space into I don't know, just being a little bit more thoughtful about where they're investing. But I mean, your story there is super inspiring. I can't imagine being in a room with 12 dudes kind of.
Oh, and it happens all the time. All my investors are dudes. It's so fucking annoying. I'm can we get some women in this piece?
Well, it's going to be you, man. When you're it's going to be you. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's what's we'll talk to a lot of women and these badass women that are all about making money or owning their own business or whatever. And those are the future investors. And we had Maura Aarons-Melly on the podcast, and she was just talking about how women now, we need to acquire more money. Although it seems greedy and it's kind of against our creative nature to think so financially focused, but we need to acquire more money so we can invest in women's businesses, so we can do all of these things,
Listen, money isn't the reason that we're here. It's not our purpose, but if you are really passionate about giving back to, let's say you're really passionate about dogs and you really want to take care of the problem of, the fact that there are so many dogs out there without homes. Okay. The best way to fix that problem is with money. It really is. So, no matter what whatever your goal is, if you really want to help, bring female equality, if that's something you're really passionate about, pay equality, et cetera. Exactly. Like you said, the way to do that is to actually have enough money to invest in female-led companies, to invest in whatever it is your vision is. If you think confidence is an issue with females, and creating some kind of solution to that. It all takes money. So I completely agree with that. And there's nothing to feel shameful about that. I think that's great to hear that you guys are already thinking about that next evolution. I hope I am lucky enough to be on the other side of the table just to represent that other dimension. I think women also, because we have naturally this emotional capability, I'm not saying men don't have it, but it's a little bit more easy for us to access in general, this emotional sort of intelligence. And we already have the other kind of intelligence. Like there's no question about that. But when you're able to combine those two and have confidence, it's really like it creates, I feel like, a level of leadership that is so powerful. And we have that at our fingertips. We just need to get the confidence piece up because we already have the emotional intelligence and I think the other kind of intelligence. So it's just, for me, I see it time and time again. It's really just the confidence in ourselves. It's so sad that's such a thing that like we can stop right now, you know? And like, I think it starts with kids that are young and just really trying to encourage girls and young women to push through that. You know?
Did you ever, so as you didn't have a lot of money, you talked about at the beginning, and then you've acquired wealth as you've grown, the past 6 years. Was there ever a time when you had to like shift your money mindset? Like, did you ever have difficulties with telling yourself you deserved it or kind of, exactly like believing that this was yours? Like, what was that like?
So let me give you a couple examples. I remember when we got investment. So now we have like, first of all, when we got investment, we were like, is this for real? Like we had been on the starving end of ramen, and then suddenly there's something with 6 zeros in our business bank account. It's not like we were personally getting any, had seen any money yet. But I remember the three of us just took a picture of the Health-Ade bank account, and we were like, "Is this for real? Like, just make sure I'm not crazy." And we had this money. We had to hire somebody in manufacturing. We had just received investment, and we knew we needed like a really good person because we were about to build a serious brewery. And like, we didn't know what we were doing. So it's like, imagine going from like, I have enough money to pay for like 10 bottles to now having millions of dollars to build a brewery. So it's like, I knew I needed somebody with massive expertise. That kind of level of expertise costs money. It's more than you're going to want to spend. It's more than you're comfortable spending at that size of a business. But we hired somebody. He was absolutely the best money we ever spent. And one of the things I always advise people that are, starting this from scratch, especially those that started with a little bit of money, is don't be afraid for the top executive talent to pay for it because it will really pay you in dividends in the end. But what I did, because I felt so guilty about spending that money on him, I took a 60% pay cut. Like, just cause nobody told me to do it. I was just like, oh, it's like not okay for me to pay this guy over $200,000. I need to make so I cut my pay in like, wow. And I already wasn't making a lot. So I don't know why I did that. And I look back on that. I'm like, the business was so better off for that reason. Even the investors were like, why are you doing that? And I was like, cause it's just like the right thing to do. I mean, this guy's like an insanely costly person. Like, this is what we're doing. And maybe it spoke to the fact that we were super gritty and resourceful, fine. But like, I look back and I'm kind of like, that was dumb. Like, that was basically saying that he's more important than me. And there was no real reason for that. So yeah, I struggled with that the whole time. Even recently, we sold a little portion, Justin and I sold a little portion of our business back to the investors so that we could buy a house. That experience was like crazy because I almost feel like I didn't deserve it. Like, it was so weird. It's so weirdly like where that psychology sits. But after going through with it and buying ourselves a house and decorating it and stuff and being like so proud of it, I'm like, why did I ever avoid this in the first place? I don't know how we change that about ourselves, but I think it's at least the first step is to talk about how silly it is. Because maybe if you're in that instance, you'll think differently than I did and say, no, I'm not going to, even though I want to cut my pay, I'm not cutting my own pay so this other person get hired. But yeah, it's a weird thing, women with money. And I think I think I don't know where that comes from. Anyway.
I know, feel you.
Feel you hard.
Yeah.
I do want to talk a little bit about the kombucha space. Why, for our listeners who don't know, a lot of them do know because you're at all of our events, but who don't know Health-Ade, why is it different than other brands? And I don't want to talk about other brands, specifically, but I do know that there is buzz in the news now about not you guys, another brand not giving the correct amount of sugar. Some people are concerned about, the sugar and all of that. So how is Health-Ade different? Why do you love your brand? And what are you doing that is, just keeping it real with your customers too, I think is really important. And just, kind of evolving and being an open book in that way.
This is a really important question. So I'll start first with why I think we're different, but I think there's something more important than you asked in there that I'd like to speak to. We always started even back in the farmers markets, and we were dedicated to being the best tasting and highest quality. That was our whole thing. Coming from nutrition, I really wanted to create a functional beverage that would give you the maximum benefit, I guess, non-scientifically speaking. And so we always used everything organic, highest quality we could, amber bottles to prevent the UV light. But fast forward to today, the main things that we do that are different, and it's all under that umbrella of still vying to be the best tasting and highest quality, is first we ferment 100% in glass. So when you came into our brewery and you saw 250,000 glass jars, we're the only commercial brewery that uses glass in fermentation in all of its fermentation. And this is important because acids develop during fermentation, and plastic and metal at this stage can leach. Even though glass is more expensive and a super big pain to work with, because we're here to be the best, it was something we've committed to. If you go to Modena, Italy, that's how all the good vinegars are fermented as well in glass. So very proud to be all glass and the only ones in glass. We make super small batches, 2.5 gallon kombucha. That's also a pain. We do that because it allows for us to make real kombucha. And we do that because the quality just is undeniably there. As soon as I expand batch sizes in my research, I can taste it. And I'm like, well, if I'm here to be the best, I think my consumer cares about that. So that's it. We flavor with the highest quality stuff you can find, we cold press juice in-house, flavor our kombucha. What's one of your favorite flavors? I'm drinking a pomegranate right now.
I love you guys have
your
new ones, the sweet thorn, even the coffee.
The
what was the coffee one?
Yeah, the matcha cold brew coffee.
Cool.
It's so freaking good. It's crazy. Just the flavors are so curated. I'm very sensitive to artificial flavoring. And I think some, you can just taste it in anything you drink. This is I can close my eyes and I can see the ingredients. You know what I mean? It's it's so good.
Yeah. Well, that's the idea. And so for the pomegranate that I'm drinking now, it's a shot of cold pressed pomegranate juice that goes in right after we cold press it. So it's kind of you make it at home, and that was always our vision. But the most important thing we do differently, I would say, is that we make real kombucha. So it's completely fermented naturally with a SCOBY. It takes 4 weeks to make a bottle. We don't add any probiotics externally to it. It's completely nature's creation. So in a lot of ways, we farm kombucha, or we raise kombucha instead of make it. The reason I bring that up as important is it's important that, we talk about what it means to make fermented food and how that is different from a pasteurized food. So when you go to the shelf, for the most part, everything is pasteurized except for whole produce that you buy. And now there are some new things coming out that aren't pasteurized. But the problem with pasteurization is that it kills everything. And that's great because you're not going to get Giardia. But the downside of it is it does kill all the good stuff as well. And all the good bacteria, everything that's alive that would have been alive in that product, if it was at all friendly at any point, it kills that too. So if you were to eat pasteurized sauerkraut, the benefit that came from fermentation is gone for the most part. I mean, you're still getting fiber and stuff, but you're not getting those probiotics. So fermented foods have introduced a whole new interesting dimension to the food system. And the problem is fermentation, by definition, means it changes over time. So in kombucha, the sugar gets eaten by the yeast, and over time it turns into acid. Well, if I don't pasteurize my kombucha, then it's still continuing in fermentation on the shelf. It's going a lot slower on the shelf than it is in that hot room when you guys walked in and saw the 250,000 jars. So that's where it happens super fast. The sugar goes down like that, and the acids go up like that. But even on the shelf, it still continues like that. And so by definition, it still changes. And one of the challenges is, well, for the nutrition facts panel, what do you put there? Because it changes, right? Wow. So the nutrition facts panel was kind of created for a pasteurized world, but the fermented world doesn't really know what to do. Huh. I'll give you another example, like oranges. If you were to pick an orange off of a tree in Valencia today versus in August, you probably wouldn't think it was that weird that they would have significantly different amounts of vitamin C or whatever, because it's a different time period. You'd be like, yeah, it's an orange. One orange is bigger than another. I don't know. Like you wouldn't probably think that it was that odd that like one carrot had more vitamin A than another carrot because it's a carrot and it came from the ground. Like you expect that kind of variation. Well, real kombucha is kind of more like that carrot than it is a Coca-Cola, for example. Whereas if I opened a Coca-Cola and tested its sugar at point A versus 10 months later at point B, it would absolutely have the same amount of sugar, like to the 100th degree, because it's not changing. Kombucha is different. And so I know you mentioned a brand with the sugars, and I actually feel for that brand because I don't know for sure. I actually have a feeling they weren't being dishonest. I think what's happening there is there is an inherent reality of fermented foods, which is that there is a spectrum of numbers that it could be. And which ones do you pick?
Wow, that's so interesting. I'm so glad you brought that up.
Yeah, so maybe they picked the lower ones in the beginning and then had some pressure to pick the higher ones, which I understand. And maybe that was all in an effort to actually be more transparent to the consumer. But it's a difficult world because you can't just say that out loud, because there'll be lawyers sniffing for a lawsuit saying, well, the law says you got to be in this nutrition facts panel at all times. So it's like over the next 5 years, I bet that this nutrition facts panel will evolve for fermented foods, especially because it's supposed to change. That's the whole point. That's what makes it healthy. And, it's not changing significantly. It's not like it's going from 2 to 3 grams to like 20 grams or something like that. It's in this spectrum range. And overall, even in that spectrum, kombucha is pretty low sugar compared to like a soda or something like that. So, I'm glad you brought the question up because it has been something that a lot of people bring up. And I want everyone to know it's a little complex with kombucha, because especially real kombucha, because the whole point is it changes. And as this market develops, because it still is actually a small market, like it's $1 billion the category is $1 billion, and it's growing like crazy, but it's still figuring itself out. It's nowhere as big as like yogurt yet. And just like yogurt had to figure out the nuances and what's called a yogurt, what's called a dairy fermented beverage. We're going to have to figure that out for kombucha. And the real kombuchas have the real challenge because we change the most over time. So it's a thing. Wow. Yeah. So I'm glad you brought that up.
Yeah. I'm so glad you cleared it up.
Yeah,
I had no idea. No idea.
Yeah.
Wouldn't have thought.
And it's not because consumers are like, oh, they're lying. And I'm like, don't be so sure.
Oh,
it may be that.
Yeah.
Yeah. It may be that they just got more information and there was a pressure to go with a higher number or whatever.
I love the idea of like being open and educating your consumers about it. Like you said, like maybe the nutritional facts will change over time. Like I don't think people will stop drinking kombucha if they knew that. I think it's kind of a cool fact, to know that you are eating fermented foods that are changing and that's why they're healthy and they're living. I think it's a good piece, a good conversation to bring up. And I'm sure this is all happening for a reason. So I think that's great.
Yeah. I mean, it's happening with all of the fruits and vegetables you have.
Yeah.
As they sit in the fridge, those things change as well. So it's not something that hasn't been happening, and it certainly doesn't indicate that it's unsafe or unhealthy, right? Because like obviously an apple is healthy. It's just that I don't think we thought about fermented food in this way. And now that conversation is starting, and the whole kombucha industry is very much involved with how legislation is allowing fermented food to show up. And that's why I suspect that in the next 5 years, there'll be a special nutrition facts panel or some kind of way for fermented foods to still exist, but not be forced to live in like a pasteurized standard.
Wow.
Yeah.
I mean, it's interesting too. It's like the health industry, they just find something with this when there's so many problems with so many different things, but they focus on, something like kombucha and like the sugar in kombucha. Yeah. It's always interesting. Okay. What are you excited about for 2018? What are you looking forward to?
So I'm really looking forward to, this sounds really lame, but just like hitting our goals. That 2017 was kind of like, we had just opened up our brewery downstairs, which is the one you saw, 50,000 square feet. We're able to go like crazy. It's awesome. We opened the doors and it was like a floodgate opening. It was just kind of like, go, 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 go. Like, I mean, we had goals, but it was just sort of like a free for all, like mess. We hired over 45 people last year. It was just a crazy year of activity. This year we've got everybody in place for the most part. We've got very clear goals. We're super focused. We have like 3 things per department that we're all trying to execute on. So I've made a real shift from last year to like a lot of work to focused work. And I'm really liking the energy in the office and the culture this quarter and hopefully through the rest of this year. Everybody's got their head down. They're very clear on what they're doing. And so I'm kind of excited to see us hit these very big goals this year, but in a way that's not making us go home like, needing a 6-hour massage. So I'm really excited about that. That's not as fun. I know that's kind of like something a CEO would say.
Hey girl.
I'm just really excited to hit our goals this year.
It's awesome.
Yeah. Love it.
That's so great.
That's so what we say. We're just like, we're excited to just continue and just hit goals. Like it's like when you're on your path and you know that it's working, there's nothing really more you can say than something but that. It's like, I don't know.
And do we have new flavors on the horizon?
Oh yeah.
We do. Yeah. I mean, I should have mentioned that too. So in May, we'll be launching what I think is literally our best flavor ever. And it's jalapeno kiwi cucumber.
Damn. I'm into it.
Yeah.
Come on.
All cold pressed. It's all cold pressed in-house. And the jalapenos somehow, when they're fermented, they lose a little bit of their spice. So it's not actually that spicy. It's not as spicy as our cayenne cleanse. But the jalapeno has this like incredible flavor. And when it's got a little bit of the sweetness from the kiwi and the coolness of the cucumber, I mean, it's literally like I could just sip on it all day, all night.
That makes me so happy.
That's amazing.
I'm so excited.
You guys are so cool.
Yeah, we'll send you guys some as soon as we launch that. So that's one that's on the horizon. I think we've got a couple others. Certainly, always trying one. We whenever we come up with something, we try to do it. But this year, we're really trying to be focused. So I'd rather my team focus on like hitting the goal we're going for than like come up with a new creation. This year is a little bit more like let's execute and let's go home on time.
Wow.
Love that. Love that.
Awesome. Well, you're an inspiration to us. We always love talking to fellow female entrepreneurs, and your story is amazing. And I
appreciate your authenticity too and your vulnerability. Like that's what matters for women right now that are going through this, not to see like the perfect end product of you right now, but knowing like the process and the story behind it. So cannot appreciate your authenticity enough.
I know. And wait, last piece. Do you know Daina Trout of Model
I met
Meals?
her. Well, yes, I met her at Create and Cultivate, and we were like,
you could be literally, could be sisters. You could be sisters. You're both so beautiful. And 2, you're like entrepreneur, badass queen sisters. Mm-hmm. Like, I just think like, I don't even know. I love
that. I love that. I'm going to text her that she's my entrepreneur, badass queen sister.
Yeah. She is.
Tell her we sent
I really liked her. As soon as I met her on Friday, I'm like, who
the
are
coolest.
you? And where is you? Like, let's hang out. Yeah.
Totally.
Both of you. Well, thank you so much for making the time. We so appreciate it.
Mm-hmm.
Really appreciate it.
You guys are awesome. Thank you so much. I'm going to come take your Soul Cycle class.
Anytime.
Let's
anytime.
go.
Just let me know.
Yep. We'll schedule it. I'll be with you.
You guys are
right
both
next to you.
teachers?
She's not, but I just ride with her.
She rides. She's my homie.
Yeah.
I just get the perks.
Nice. Awesome. Sweet. I can't wait. I'll see you guys soon. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So much.
Have the best day.
Bye,
we'll see you
Daina.
soon. Bye.
You too. Bye.
Who likes kombucha?
After this,
Health-Ade's the only one that I really drink now.
After knowing what goes into it, a brand like Health-Ade is so, she's described it so different. They make it in little glass
Little batches?
Batches. It's not a jar, but it's bigger. I actually went to their headquarters and it's crazy.
Really?
How do you get that many bowls to hold kombucha?
You had to go across the nation.
I said it like you do it.
Kombucha.
We hope you enjoyed the interview. Female founders, man.
Yeah.
I'm just so inspired all the time.
I love how she talks about the nitty gritty, man. She is like such a badass. So you can pick up Health-Ade at Whole Foods, I know they have it at Erewhon. They have it at a lot of regular grocery stores now too. I think it's the most distributed.
I see it everywhere, which is great.
Yeah, you see it everywhere.
New flavors coming, and they do it right. It's really carefully curated. It's not just lime kombucha.
Yeah, they have their flavors.
They're like sweet thorn and huckleberry.
Maca. Yeah. You're like maca deer trough. Oops. And this was an amazing review I wanted to read. I loved it. And it fits for this one. Fun and inspiring. I always look forward to hearing who they interview next. I especially appreciate the entrepreneurial theme, and I've learned a lot from their guests. Such a fun girl gang to be a part of. Love. Light Sleepo, we love you. Thank you so much, honey.
Thank you. All right, guys. We will talk to you next week. I hope you enjoyed this double episode week with Jill and Daina. Next week is really special as well. So join us on Tuesday for a new episode, and rate and review or share with your friends if you haven't already. We'll see you soon.
Bye.